All right, we'll go to the next slide for you.
Yeah, well, you probably know all of us. I know Valen, you know everybody. And Terry, I think you know all of us as well, either from this time or the last time or working with us. So we can skip, well, actually, we could just skip over this slide, I think.
I'm
This
just
is
going
our
to say
time.
hi to Ashley. I don't know that she and I have ever interacted before. How long have you been here, Ashley?
Almost 5 years.
Oh, that's embarrassing. Okay, 28 years for me.
All right. Well, thank you guys for attending today. And as Mariah said, we have a very small group, so questions are welcome and we can go over a lot in detail. We're focusing today on announcements and event posts about, what's the difference between the two of them, what type of content is best for each one, how to get those posted correctly so that they appear on different web pages and in different areas so that the community knows about your announcements and your events. We're going to talk a little bit about adding the content, some of the best practices so that everything follows guidelines, looks similar, is consistent, makes it easy for a user to understand and digest is what we call it. And we're going to talk about how to add an image because you can add images to your announcements and your events, make them really robust. We'll talk about posting dates, how to select a day and time to post to appear on the website or in WPI Today, which does have a deadline. If you want to make sure that you reach the next day, it has to be posted in time to do that. And then at the very end too, we're going to talk about the difference between the announcement block in Drupal on the Drupal page versus actually composing an announcement and then posting it in that announcement block. They're two separate processes. So we'll talk a little bit about that too. And any questions, Terry, really, you can interrupt us. Valen, you as well. You can both interrupt us as you want because we have such a small group today, but you're also welcome to put them in the chat, or if you want, you can wait till the end. So announcements are the preferred communication method for the WPI community, bar none. Lots of our analytics show that people read the announcements, react to the announcements, engage with the announcements. That's where people turn to get their news. They appear on web pages that you select. They appear in WPI Today, which is the email that goes out to the WPI community employees to get that every day. And then, like I said, the specific web pages when they're tagged, we call it tagged, but that just means that you're choosing to post your announcement to particular web pages. These are, I think people sometimes don't know the difference between, well, why should it be an announcement? Shouldn't it be a news story? Because their news stories are designated for something that the media would be very interested in. They go by specific guidelines about research and that sort of thing. However, depending on the news interest, we can pitch announcement content to the media. So, I mean, it's not something that is strictly limited to the WPI community. It can reach a much wider audience. Folks can use those links to put into newsletters, to put into emails, to help spread that news. So they're really an important source of information for the WPI community and beyond. The difference, this part is a little bit confusing. If there's an event that is not hosted by WPI, but there are WPI attendees, that should be listed as an announcement, not an event. So some sort of example would be like a podcast. Yes, this appeared on a certain date and a time, but it's not hosted by WPI. It's not on the WPI campus, but you still want people to know about it, even though it took place at a specific day and time. Sometimes another one could be something that's off campus that really isn't related to something specifically. I don't know. I'm not describing that very well, but if you have an event at the Museum of Science and a faculty member is speaking there, generally that would be considered an announcement, not an event. We'll talk more about that too a little bit. We'll go into detail. So the content that is best for announcements is very broad. As you can see from this whole list, I'm not going to read the whole list because I know that everybody will have access to this, but it can go from something that you want to announce about a faculty member getting an award, a student getting an award, a specific achievement, a research project that is kicking off. Like I said, if somebody has a speaking engagement, if there's really exciting news that's happening in a project center that you want folks to know about, if your department, division, office has hired some new people and you want to let the community know about that, you can also put an announcement about that. So it's this whole big list. There's a lot that you can use to promote for an announcement. So the university calendar of events. So the university does have a calendar. It's called the university calendar, and it is specifically about all of the events that are taking place on campus. They have a set date and a set time. They are hosted by WPI. If, like we said, if they're not hosted by WPI, even if there are WPI attendees, it should be an announcement. So the examples of event content and topics would be, and I think people have probably seen this before in WPI today. So there's a PhD dissertation defense. So that would be a great event. Department gatherings, or maybe a send-off for somebody who is retiring, a town hall from the president, or any kind of discussion panel, or important event like that, that somebody in your office, division, department is hosting on campus. The event planning assistant at WPI is conducted by the events office, so you can always reach out to them if you have questions about how to host an event. But the event promotion is through the university calendar. And we have a lot of resources for event promotion, which you can find through that link. Okay, so pretty much one thing that we really do like to focus on when you're creating an announcement or event, the content can be varied. You can have a short couple of sentences, you can have a couple of paragraphs. The important thing is you want to make sure that it's fairly consistent so that users know exactly what's happening. So you want a very specific title and headline. You want to make sure you have the date, and you want to make sure you name the department that's making the announcement so that users can identify where this news is coming from. The body block of text could include all of your content. You might want to add some photos, some graphics. You could even add links to outside places if you want to do that. When you go into set up your announcement in Drupal, you want to make sure that you choose faculty and staff as your audience in the block that asks for that, which Mariah will show you in a few minutes. That pulls that content into the WPI Today email. So that means that if you choose faculty and staff as your audience, as part of your audience, then it will go into WPI Today and they will see that. When we call tagging is really what's referred to within Drupal as post to website. So that just means you want to choose the pages you want that content to appear on. So that could be your office page, your department page. So that could be something the School of Arts and Sciences, and also under social sciences and policy studies. And it could also appear maybe pulling in a faculty names. So there are lots of different places that you could put that. You also do want to choose WPI Today so that people will see that in that daily email. Same with event posts, same sort of thing. You want the time of the event, contact information. So in case anyone has questions, you want to let people know where it is. And if there's any registration information, make sure to include that in the event post as well. Ashley, I'll loop this one over to you.
Okay, so we have certain like best practices that everybody should follow in order to have like a standardization of the way announcements and events look when they are posted. The best thing to do is to keep information short and informal. Usually people don't want to read like whole long paragraphs or have really, really long titles. It's kind of off-putting. Usually people want to consume their content within a few seconds. So keeping your titles and your sentences short, or a short paragraph, is really ideal so people can digest the information quickly and get what they need. Keep the title a max of about 10 words, usually or 90 characters, again, to keep it more concise and to convey that information quickly. Try to make use of bullet points rather than large paragraphs if possible. That's easier, again, to consume. And then when you want to provide a link to something, whether it's a page to another page on the website or a page elsewhere. Try to link it from Word rather than putting the full URL in there. It just looks better. You're not seeing all that extra information, the URL, and then it's more precise about where you want people to go for certain information. Make use of images. It's a really good way to build up how the page looks and to convey some more information. People love pictures, so it's always going to be more eye-catching. Make sure your content is original. Don't try to copy or paste anything from other sources. Make sure it's written exactly in the way that your department needs it to be conveyed. If you want to use information from other sources, it's better to link it or to do like a short quote, but definitely not just a full-on copy paste and making that your announcement or your event post. Definitely, if you need templates or ideas of how to kind of compose an announcement, we have a whole bunch of templates listed on the resources page that you can reference. It's actually as a PDF that you can download it and refer back to it for different examples of what announcements could be and how you might want to structure it. Also, go through the university calendar, look at other event posts that people have made for examples and see how it's generally put together if you need ideas about how to structure it or what information to include.
Thank you, Ashley and Julia. So now we can hop into Drupal, start looking at how to create our announcements and events, and how we can pull those into our pages. So I'm going to swap over to Drupal. Do you guys see the WPI homepage right now? Okay, great. All right, so the first thing that you're going to do once you're logged into Drupal, you know that you're logged into Drupal when you can see this bar up here at the top. And you can see your username. This is Gompy's account. So when I click on shortcuts, I'm going to have the option to go into my content. And when I go into my content, I can see the groups that I'm a member of, as well as all the other groups that exist. So if I want to create my announcement in my Drupal Knowledge Sharing Sessions group, I'm going to click on the group name. And that brings me into my group, so I can see all of my group details, members, and the content. So if I'd like to add an announcement, I'll click on Add New Content. And I'll click Group Node Announcement. And this is going to bring up my announcement editor. So I have quite a few fields here. My first field is the title. So I'm going to write a title called Drupal Knowledge Sharing Session Announcement number 1. And then I have to choose an announcement date. This is going to be displayed on the page, and your announcement is not going to be pulled into any announcement blocks or the announcement page until the day that you choose here. So I'm going to keep it to today's date, and then I will add some text into the body. This is your standard text editor. You have lots of options: bold, italicize, and then you can also add some hyperlinks, as Ashley was saying. Instead of pasting an entire link here in the text, it would be better if you created a hyperlink. So here's my sentence for my hyperlink, and say I wanted to link to, let's go to the announcements page. Say I wanted to link to this page, I can just grab the URL here. I'm going to copy this, and then I will highlight the word that I'd like to link, and I'll click on this hyperlink button here, and I can paste my URL and click on the checkbox to save it. And there's my hyperlink. You also have the option to add images. You have this media button here. So if I click on insert media, that's going to bring up the Drupal library. you can either, if you already have some stuff in here, you can choose that and insert it. So I'll choose this one and insert selected. Or if you don't already have one, then you can choose to add files. I'm not sure with the screen sharing if you can see my,
Yeah, we can see it.
yeah, you can see it. Okay. Well, I don't have a particular image that I would like to add. Let's do our channel banner. So, yep, if you add something like that, then you would click on open, and then you can choose to add some alternative text like you have to do for any images across the site. CMS Help Desk YouTube banner. And then you can save it, and then that'll bring it into the Drupal library. Same thing, you would select it and click insert selected, and you would have it here in your announcement. You also have the option to link onto the images as well with the same process. And then always make sure to click the check mark to save it. Oh, okay. All right, now coming into all of our other options, really our tagging options. We have audiences, post to websites, and faculty and staff. So if this is an announcement that I would like to be brought into WPI today, the most important things is that I'm going to choose faculty and staff as my audiences. So first I'm going to click on faculty from this list here, then I'll click on this plus button, and that'll bring that over to my selected options. I'll click on staff and do the same thing, click on the plus button, and it'll bring it over to my selected options. If say I added one by accident, oh, parents, and then I decided I didn't want a parent audience, then I would click on it and click on the minus button to remove it. And then if I want to bring the announcement into pages in Drupal, I'm going to use the post to websites field. So as you saw, I went into the Drupal Knowledge Sharing Session group that I'm a part of. So if I choose that group here, then this announcement is going to be posted in any announcement blocks that are placed on pages that are within this group. Another group that I want to add is WPI Today. And that's going to bring my announcement into WPI Today as well as my faculty and staff audiences. And then say you have an announcement that's about one of your faculty was featured on a podcast. A good example of another group that you might want to tag that's maybe not necessarily your own group would be WPI Insider. WPI Insider is our hub for podcast features, all of the WPI news stories and audio as well. And then you can also tag any faculty or staff. So the announcement will display on their Drupal profile. So if I'm writing an announcement about Ashley being featured in a podcast, I'm going to tag her account. And then the announcement will display on her Drupal profile. All right.
Mariah, I have a question.
Yep. What's up?
So WPI Insider.
Mhm.
Am I allowed to post to WPI Insider? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, if you have let's go to the page so we can see some
I'm
examples.
familiar with doing WPI Today, and I've always done that, but I didn't know other people could post to WPI Insider.
So if you had an announcement that was, here's an example about Assistant Professor David Ibet. So this is tagged with WPI Insider, and that's why it's being pulled onto this page for any podcast announcements. So here are some examples if you wanted to look through these and see if you have anything going
But
on.
those are only podcast announcements. So our normal announcements would not go to WPI Insider? Or should not?
Technically speaking, it's the same thing. This is just the title of this here. So so this would be applicable for podcast announcements. But this is being pulled
But
in.
WPI Insider, is that only podcast announcements in WPI Insider? I'm sorry, what I'm trying to understand. Like if
Yes.
I do announcements all the time. I did an event yesterday. I did an announcement yesterday. I'm wondering if I should have tagged WPI Insider, which I've never done in my life.
No, only if it's about a podcast. If
So
you're
if you have-
Okay.
I'm sorry if I can jump in a little. So
Yeah, go ahead.
Terry, if you have somebody who's in your office who has made a guest appearance on a podcast, you'd want to create an announcement, just like any other announcement that you'd do. You'd want to tag it or, post a website in all of the normal ways. But because it's actually a podcast appearance, this page is to help us promote our faculty and staff who are doing podcast appearances. So you would also post WPI Insider just for that specific purpose of being a podcast appearance. Otherwise, you don't have to do anything with this. So if there's nobody in your office that does a podcast appearance, you don't have to worry about WPI Insider. And if you have any doubt at all, just get in touch with one of us too. This is just a nice page for us to start letting people know that this is a really important thing that a lot of our faculty and staff are doing, and we wanted a new way to promote it that really calls it out so that people can find those.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mhm. All right. So now that I have finished creating my announcement, I can either choose to have it published immediately by clicking this check mark here for the publish field. Or I can come back up to the top and go to this drop down over here that says scheduling options. And I can choose to publish the announcement tomorrow or sometime next week. And you can also choose a specific time. And if, say, for example, if you only wanted your announcement to be up for a week, then you can choose a time for it to unpublish as well. I'm not sure how often our community uses the unpublished field, but if you find yourself in that scenario, then you have the option. All right, so
I have a question again.
Yep.
So I've never used scheduling options. Cool to know that. So the announcement date, that's what I've always filled in. So I always fill out like a future date. I did one yesterday morning. And so I put in today's date and I submitted it before noon so that it would get published in WPI today, this morning, and it did. So that's what I've always done. So if we instead use a scheduling option, the announcement date, I'm just trying to understand if the announcement date matches then the publish on date. Is that supposed to match? Or can these be actually different? I guess I'm a little.
It can technically be different. I would say if you are choosing to publish it, like say I was publishing for the 29th, and then yes, I would probably decide to have the announcement date be the 29th, or after. So at least the 29th or after, maybe I would want it published on the 29th, and then on the announcement date could be the 31st. However, your announcement date, it's if you say for example, we didn't decide to schedule the publishing, and then I chose the 31st for my announcement date and then clicked on publish and saved it, it's not going to be pulled onto the announcements page, or it's not going to be pulled onto any announcement blocks that you have in your pages that you're tagging it to. And it's also not going to be pulled into WPI today until at least that date. So it will technically be published and it will technically be available to view if given the link, but it's not going to be pulled into anything dynamic.
So let me ask a question. So so say yesterday something was timely and it was news and it was like, I'm picturing kind of some big news release kind of thing that we write ourselves as an announcement. And I was like, oh yeah, this was news on July 24th, yesterday's date. But for some reason, maybe I didn't want to go public with it until 2 days later. Would that be an example of, I want the date to show July 24th, but I'm actually going to publish on July 26th, but then it'll still appear with that date of July 24th when somebody finds it? Am I understanding correct?
Yep, so that will it will allow you to go in the past. However, so let's give ourselves like a larger leeway. So let's say like 3 days before. If you posted that announcement, it will display in this page in your it's going to display in your announcements block. However, it most likely will not be pulled into WPI today because it will be backdated.
Right. Okay.
It
But then
also,
if my publish on date was in the future, so say you did that 7/22, but could you still put a publish on date tomorrow? And then that's where it would like go to WPI today or something?
technically, if it's like a couple days, if it's too many days, then it won't be pulled into WPI today. Because we do have, the WPI today will look at the last 24 hours of what was published as well as, the announcement date. But it will give a couple days of leeway, so that we're bringing everything in. Because a common thing that I see as well is, users will choose today's date every day for their announcements. And then, but if you create your announcement after noon, so after 12 p.m., then it's not going to be pulled into the next day's WPI today because that's when we create the WPI today. Does that answer your
So in
question?
a way, you never need to, yeah, I guess I don't need to start using scheduling options. It seems like it's more if for some reason you want to unpublish something. Because the announcement date and the publish on date do the same thing. Unless perchance you want a particular time, publish on gives you that opportunity.
Right. It is important to note that if it's not scheduled, but you choose a future date, it is getting published. But
Correct.
again, like I said, it's not being pulled into anything. No one's gonna see it unless they're digging for it or if they go in through the back end of Drupal to see it.
Okay.
Or if you provided the link. So it would still be technically available, but right, it's not going to be displayed anywhere. Also, your announcements, you can see that it goes in order of date. So if you had something with an announcement date, say the 29th, and then you made something for the 26th, it's still going to go 26, 29.
Right.
Right.
But I am correct. Scheduling options, that how you, after you did everything on the left and then you went up to scheduling options, I don't actually have to ever use that.
Nope,
Unless I
you don't want
wanted at
to.
a specific time to.
Yep. Unless you didn't want it published until a specific day.
Okay, or for some reason I want it only during a time frame, that's when I need
Yep.
to use the scheduling options. All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
I just wanted to add one thing too, that if it's something that's super sensitive, Terry, that you don't want people to see, you just absolutely don't want people to see, I would probably not do that scheduling option in advance because as Mariah said, it is live. And although technically most people won't see it, there's always the chance that somebody could see it. So if it's something super sensitive, don't choose to make that announcement in the future. Just, post it when you need to have it posted.
Yeah,
All right, awesome. So now that we have everything filled out, let's save our announcement. Let's see if we did everything right. Okay, awesome. You'll get this little status message that says that you successfully created your announcement. And you can see it here. It's important to always, if you do add any links or hyperlinks, then you should check to make sure that they work as intended. So you can see here, I'm going to the announcements page as I wanted to. And then we can go ahead and see on Ashley's page that she was tagged with my announcement. All right. So I think now we can hop into events. So creating an event is going to be a very similar process to the way that you create an announcement, but we're going to have a lot more fields to fill out in terms of announcement dates, times, etc. So again, I'm going to go up to my shortcuts and I'm going to click on my content. And I'll go back into the Drupal Knowledge Sharing Session group. And I'll click Add New Content. And I'll choose to add an event. All right, and as you can see, we have a lot more options here. We have multiple tabs up here at the top. So the first tab is the title and the date. So I'm going to fill out my title and I'm going to say Drupal Knowledge Sharing Session. Event number 2. Oh, event number 1. And then I'm going to decide when my event is going to occur. I can choose my start date. And let's say my start date is tomorrow, July 26th. And it's going to happen at 10 a.m. Or you can also choose to say that it's an all-day event by clicking this here, and then so it'll schedule it for the entire day instead of at a specific time. But my event is happening tomorrow at 10 a.m. You also have the option to say when the event ends. So say my event is from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on the 26th. So I'm going to choose the end date as the 26th and change this to 1 p.m. Oh, you can also click on this clock if you don't want to type it in. So I'll say I want my event to end at 1 p.m. All right. And then so you also have this option here. If you mess anything up, you can just clear it and it'll all go away and you can start over. And you have this note here that tells you that the end date is optional as a reminder as well. And in this field, we have if this is a parent or a sub event. So we have 3 options in this field. We can either choose not applicable, or we can say that this has some sub events. So if I choose this event has 1 or more sub events, then it's going to gray out this section here and tell me that the parent event is going to be determined by the dates of the sub events. So if I created a parent event and then I would have to create my sub events separately and choose this is a sub event of an existing parent. And then I would have the option to pick my parent event here. But for demonstration purposes, we'll choose non-applicable so we can go into our other fields. We also have the post to websites field in an event as well. It's the same for events as it is for the announcements. So if I want my event to be pulled into the calendar that is on the pages that are in the Drupal Knowledge Sharing group, I'm going to choose the Drupal Knowledge Sharing Session group. If I want my event to be pulled into WPI Today, I'm going to choose the WPI Today group. as well as in the calendar options. If I switch over to this tab up here at the top, I'm also going to include faculty and staff the same way that we did for the announcement to be pulled into WPI today. I'm also going to add another option for, let's say, alumni for my alumni event. For the calendar options, you can decide if this is a WPI only event. If you check off this box, then the event is only available to WPI users. So the event will be pulled into event calendars. However, if they click on the event to see any details, they will have to log into their Drupal account. You can choose to exclude it from the main university calendar, but it will be pulled into calendars that are on pages in your group if you tag them for your group. You can also choose to hide the add to calendar options. When we publish our event, we'll see that we have some options to for a user to add it to their Google or Outlook calendars. Now, if I switch over to event details, this is where I'm going to type in the description of my event. And again, same as announcements, this is your standard text editor. You can bold, italicize, and hyperlink. And I can add any bullet points that I might want. And I can also add images with the same add media button here. So I'll choose an image from the library here. I love this one, so I'm going to choose this image and then insert selected. That's the wrong one. Did I click the wrong one? All right. Well, here's my image. And again, you can link on your image if you'd like, and move it around with these options.
Maria, would you mind also showing how when you add a hyperlink, if it's not within wpi.edu, how we'd want to open that up in a new tab,
Oh yeah, sure, no problem.
please? Thank you.
So here's my hyperlink. And if I highlight it again, it'll show me my link, and I can edit it or unlink it. So I'm going to click edit, and say we had something that was outside of wpi.edu, like google.com, and I copied that link and pasted it in. So in that case, you would want your link to open in a new tab. That way users know that they're going to an external site. If it's within wpi.edu, you can choose to keep it within the same tab so that users can navigate back if they need to. So you're going to click on this little arrow for advanced. And then you have a toggle here to say open in a new window. And again, I'm going to click save. And now my link will open in a new window.
I got a question on that, if I may.
Mhm.
So yesterday I had a student testing some events and announcements for me, and his feedback was he thought all the tabs should open in a new window. But you're saying only things that leave wpi.edu do you recommend opening in a new window? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, I strongly recommend that only external sites open in a new window, because if we are linking to all internal sites, all in wpi.edu, say we have a few of them, each link I click on is going to open a new tab. which also raises some
Mhm.
concerns for web accessibility, because we're continuously bringing the user outside of the content that they were looking at when they're choosing to navigate to a link. So if you had a case where you felt personally that you would benefit from having the link open in a new tab, say you're going from your office page to, I don't know what's a good example, something that's far removed from your office page. If you felt personally that that was a good case to open it in a new tab, then you're welcome to. There's nothing that's technically going to stop you from having that open in a new tab. That is our suggestions, to have external sites open in a new tab and wpi.edu to stay in the same tab.
What about WordPress? It's not wpi.edu, but WordPress is still like it's WPI related content.
I still consider that external because it's a separate site from wpi.edu. So for example, if I clicked on a link on a page in wpi.edu that took me to wpi.edu/offices, then I can, from within my screen, go back to where I was before from either the menu or other buttons on the page. I'm still in the same website. However, all WordPress pages are not technically in the same website as wpi.edu.
Okay. All right. Thanks for your input.
Yep. All right. So also within our event details, we can have a little event abstract that is a brief description that is displayed in the university calendar right underneath the event. So this is also optional, but I'll put something in there so we can see how it looks. And the next tab is for any additional information. If you had an event website, for example, I think a good example would be the user experience symposium that the business school hosts. They had a website that was external from wpi.edu, so you can link that in here. Anything that you think is applicable, you would post the URL here and the link text here. If there's any project center that's related to the event, you can tag the project center in this field as well. And you'll get these options that show up when you type in the project center. Also, if you have anything that you'd like to attach, such as a PDF or a flyer, you could choose to do that here. And if you click on choose files, it's going to bring up your binder, and then you can choose from there, and it would add your flyer. And in our next tab, we have registration. If there is a registration for your event, you can choose the registration deadline with the calendar here, and you can paste your registration URL. So if I was making an event for our Drupal Knowledge Sharing Sessions, I would post my Zoom registration URL here. I wonder if I could, I don't have, okay, there's a registration link. And then in the location tab, you can choose a location. This is going to bring up any on-campus locations that we have loaded into Drupal. So for example, let's see if I have Fuller Labs. So I can say that my event is happening at Fuller Labs. And then any particular floor or room number. And if you have an off-campus address, then you can choose to put that in here. You have to choose the country. And then it will give you the option to fill out the street address. And then the last tab is for contact information. So if I want anyone to contact me about the event, I'll put in my information here. You also have a spot for a phone number, and you can add another phone number if necessary. All right. So I can choose to publish my event now, and it will be pulled into calendars automatically, or I can choose to schedule it, just like we saw with the announcements. I'm going to publish it now. I'll click on save.
Mariah?
Yep.
On both the announcements and the events. So if you don't check off published and you hit save, it's saved there in a draft and you still have the URL that you can send to your boss, and that way it's just not out there in public.
Yep. So if I choose not to publish it, then it will save all of the information in Drupal. If you wanted to send it to, say, your boss to look at it, they will have to log into Drupal to see it.
Okay.
Having an issue with my registration deadline. Okay, I needed to add a time. Okay, so here is our event that we created. We can see our image. We can test our link and see that our link opened in a new tab. We can see the location, Fuller Laboratories. That's going to bring us to the location that is on the website. We can see where it's happening, all of our audiences, our event website, and our registration URL and the contact person. And this is also going to bring in the location of the event based on the interactive map. All right, so there's our event. So our next slide says the posting date. We did go over that, as well as the publishing, the scheduled publishing. We also mentioned that if you want content to appear in WPI Today for the next day, it should be completed before noon. So let's go over the announcement block and as well as the calendar block. So if I go over to back to my content and I go to the Drupal Knowledge Sharing Session group, and I go into one of my pages. This one is Announce an Events Demo. I'm going to click on that one. And this is going to bring up my page. I'm going into the layout. Then I'll scroll down to one of my sections and decide to add a block. And I'd like to add the announcements block. Looks like we have duplicates here, but I'm going to choose the first one, the first announcements block. And then I have a couple options. I can say to display the title or not, and the title will be announcements. I can choose how many announcements I want to display per block. We're only going to see one because we only created one, but you can choose how many you'd like to show. The default is 4. And then we can decide if we want the See More button to display the rest of our announcements or all university announcements. The default is the rest of our announcements. Or we can also decide to override the title. The default title is going to say announcements, but in the event, like we saw on the WPI Insider page, it said podcast announcements. That's where you would change that field. But for now, I'm just going to keep it to announcements, and then I'll click add block. And then in the layout builder, I'll only see this placeholder here. And then if I come up to the top and save my layout, I will see that my announcement is displayed here. So if I click on my announcement, it will bring me right to the announcement that we created together. And if I click see more announcements, it's going to bring me to all of the announcements that are in, that are tagged for my group. Now we can do the same thing for the calendar. I'm going back into the layout. I will click add block and I'll choose the campus calendar. We have all of the same options here, however many items we'd like to display. If we'd like the results to be our filtered content, or if we want to override the title, let's say this is events, and then click add block. And again, we would have the placeholder here, but we can see that the block is here if I hover. Let's go up to the top and save the layout. And we can see the event that we created together. And here is the abstract field coming in. So if you want to have a small preview of what the event description is going to be, you can add that in the abstract field. Again, if you click on it, that will bring us right to our event. Okay, any questions about anything else, or adding the announcement and events block into our pages? Nope. Okay, great. I'm going to stop the recording.